Okay, we are recording this webinar, Google Ads and pay-per-click. Josh, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
All right, excellent. Hey, Josh, I'm gonna admit people as they enter the webinar. I'm gonna hand it over to you for now.
Okay, great. I'm really excited to share today a little bit more about Google Ads, pay-per-click, really give you an introduction. It's going to help you to thrive in this marketing space. But in the next 60 minutes, you're going to become an expert. Well, maybe not a complete expert, but you're definitely going to know a lot more about the most effective strategies when using Google Ads, how to navigate the changing habits of consumers and clients, and that's especially important right now with the changing landscape. The most effective and up-to-date SEM advertising techniques, and the basics of image advertising, what it is, and how you can use it to target customers with something called remarketing. And I'm joined today by Chris.
Hey, hi, my name is Chris Ralph. I'm the founder and president of Boulder SEO Marketing. I'm also the managing director of Bubble, a London-based company, and an international SEO agency called CR Global Digital Marketing. I'm originally from Switzerland, moved to Boulder in gosh, 96, absolutely love it here. This is the place for a Swiss person. There's a lot of skiing going on, mountain biking, hiking, all that good stuff. I got about over 2 decades in digital marketing. I'm an international keynote speaker. I also teach global digital marketing for universities around the globe, online these days. With that said, enough about me. Josh, back to you.
Certainly. And I'm Josh Martin. I'm originally from New Jersey, moved out to Colorado in about 2007. Digital marketing expert with 14 plus years experience. I'm a business owner, consultant. I enjoy time with my family, football, just generally learning new things and being outdoors. I'm a Google certified premier partner, being accredited professional, as well as a Google grant recipient. And today we're going to cover these key topics. So SEO and SEM, what they are and why they're better together, the evolving search results page, or SERP. We're going to take a quick live demo and show you how to build an effective search advertising campaign, which is the first campaign type you're going to need in any Google Ads campaign. Then we're going to show you some of the most effective techniques for how to manage that search campaign once you have launched it. We're going to take a quick overview on what display or image advertising is and how you can use remarketing to make that hyper effective. If there's time, we'll cover a quick what's next in SEM section, followed by questions and answers. But before I dive in there, I just want to make everyone aware that Boulder SEO Marketing is extending a 5% discount on SEM or SEM consulting services between now and the 31st of December. At any point in time, you can bring us up and we'd be happy to provide a free market analysis of any of the campaigns you're currently running in the Google Ads space. Now, with that out of the way, let's get learning.
Good sales pitch. All right.
So from here, SEO, search engine optimization, and SEM, search engine marketing. You can think of SEO as the free clicks. You can think of SEM as anything that you are paying per click. Let's kind of dissect the search engine's results page, or SERP. So it all starts here with a query, a keyword, whatever you want to call it. It goes by many names, but it's really whatever somebody enters here to elicit these search results. Then we have what's called shopping ads. These are also called PLA, or product listing ads. These are really great for anybody who's in the e-commerce space because it's really the only way to get your picture, price, product, and promotion at the top of Google search. There is no organic way to show your products in this section of Google. Then we have the text ads. These are also referred to as pay-per-click, or PPC, because every time someone clicks one of these, you're going to pay a small fee in that instance. And you can see they're denoted with a little green ad icon there. Last but most certainly not least is the organic search results, or the SEO component here in red. So you can think of the yellow and blue sections here as being SEM, or something that's controlled through Google Ads. And below here is the organic, or SEO section of Google. Now, these all play together in ways that are important to consider as you build your Google Ads campaign. And we'll get into that a little bit more when we do the live demo portion. A common question I get at this point in time is, why would I pay to show an advertisement when I already have good organic listings? And it's a very valid question. Well, for one, paid drives immediate traffic. So the minute you turn on your paid advertising campaign, you're receiving traffic to your site, and highly targeted traffic. So they're looking for your products or services. It lets you control your landing page and your messaging within Google and test those different messages. That can then later be incorporated into your organic or search engine optimization strategy. And you have good data here in Google Ads to prove that it's an effective use of a title or description. Paid lets you control more real estate. And you'll hear me use the word real estate a few times today. And when I'm speaking of real estate in this case, I'm just referring to how much your website or any secondary sites, such as social media, how much space they're taking up in the search engine. So more page real estate is ideal. Paid coupled with organic, it just drives more overall traffic. And I'll have more metrics on that in just a moment. When you couple paid and organic, it improves your key brand health metrics. And what do I mean by that? Well, brand recognition. It's going to improve your brand recognition as well as your position of prominence. When people see you at the top of Google search, they get the impression that your brand is prominent and is the most applicable thing for whatever they've searched for. Paid influences purchase. And I'll have some more metrics on this next screen here that drives that home. So with SEM, or search engine marketing, on average, you have an 858% higher conversion rate than traditional outbound methods. So think direct mail, traditional television or radio advertisement. You do get much more engagement from this type of advertising. It has a 50% higher conversion rate than organic. And we'll have more metrics on why that is in a moment. 200% average return on investment. So for every dollar you're putting in, it should be spitting out $2 worth of investment. 65% of all clicks made by users who intend to make a purchase go through a paid advertisement. And a lot of that has to do with it being at the top of search, but that's not everything. 80% average brand lift to awareness is provided when you're running a paid search campaign. So again, people see you at the top. They realize your brand, for one, exists, but also is at the top of Google. So it's giving it a position of prominence. Some more benefits. Let's say you only had an organic listing. Well, in that case, you have a 42% likelihood that someone's going to come and visit your website. Let's say you don't have organic and you only have a paid search listing, 53% likelihood. But when you've coupled a paid and organic listing and you're really dominating that page real estate, you have a 95% likelihood of that user coming to your site and performing whatever action you need, whether it's a phone call, an e-commerce purchase, or filling out a form, whatever your goal may be. And this is attributed to something I call the savvy gap. So we have a certain amount of users that are aware of what paid advertising is and where it sits in the search engine. And these are our savvy users. And they'll get that same impression of brand prominence, but they usually save you $1 or $2 by skipping your paid ad and clicking your organic listing. Whereas the non-savvy users are going to have that same impression of brand prominence, but they don't know the difference between the paid and organic section. They tend to click the first thing they see. So you can see how by having paid and organic coupled, you're really driving home every applicable user in that case, both the savvy and non-savvy. A lot is changing about the SERP, or search results page. So let's kind of take a look at how that's evolving. Here we have a search result for women's shoes for sale, and this was performed a few years ago. You can see that they really are calling out the ad section with this kind of yellowish tan square, bright kind of green ad text, and making it very clear that this is separate from the organic section of Google. Flash forward to today, and we perform the very same search result. And we're going to get something that's comprised primarily of advertisements. So we see at the top here, we have an ad for Skechers, JCPenney, and Wish.com. Skechers is doing a very good job on holding their page real estate. We'll have more details on how they're doing that momentarily. Off to the right, these are also paid advertisements. A lot of people don't realize that the product listing ads cascading on the right or at the top are paid listings. And so in this instance, it's really only leaving this third here to the organic listings. So you can see how it's very different from a few years ago, where the ads are becoming more intermingled into the search results. They're on the right, top, bottom, and the organic is mostly comprised of the middle of this page. Let's put in something a little less generic. Let's get more specific. So ladies' shoes near me. Now what we're looking at is a search result that is 100% comprised of advertisements above the fold. So we have to scroll down to actually see the organic listings in this case. There's a cascade at the top here that we can scroll through some of these product listing ads, as well as off to the right. But what some people don't realize is if you are a business that has a brick and mortar store, you can also pay for preferred placement in this maps listing. You can see Famous Footwear doing that here. And no, you can't, put a maps listing in there for someone who, let's say, is 100 miles away from you, yet they have a shoe store next door to them. No, it has to still be geographically relevant. But when it is geographically relevant, your store is going to take the first position because of that paid placement. In 2019 and 2020, we've seen the rise of something called the zero-click or infograph search result. This is neither paid nor organic. This is Google doing their best job, oftentimes to answer a question. And so what this does is gives you a short answer section such as this, and this is primarily controlled by SEO tactics. But what it also does is it saves anybody from having a sponsored click or a paid click in an instance where people are really just researching. They're trying to find out something about a brand. They'll also have these drop-down menus here that'll try to answer some similar questions. This prevents people from getting too lost and really drives home one of Google's core mission statements, and that's to get people to the information they're interested in as quickly as possible. There are some organic methods. Yeah.
So if I can quickly interrupt from an SEO standpoint, just want to provide a quick tip here. If you guys want to show up in these position zeros, or like people also ask, you need to have a page on your website, basically with these bullet points, or a Q&A page where you apply a Q&A schema. It's basically a markup language to educate Google about, what is it that you're answering on this page. I hope. Sorry for the interruption, Josh.
No, that was wonderful. No, anytime. And so let's look a little bit more at page real estate. So we saw some examples there where some people were taking up a ton of real estate. In this instance, I like to look at diapers.com because I think they're doing a really good job here on this search result. You'll see that they are taking up a nice ad position here, and they're also in the organic space here and taking up 2 paid listings here. So they're doing very, very well. There's also 2 additional links here. So in this search result, before we scroll down or go below the fold, they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 listings. So in terms of page real estate, they're winning the game. How are they doing that? Well, they're going above and beyond. So you'll see their competitors here. They're really just using some kind of dull and small ad copy. This is what's considered just a default ad. It's the bare minimum that you have to write to run an ad in Google. But what diapers.com is doing is using extensions. For example, this is a review extension, and it's something you can set up on the back end of Google Ads to accompany your ad. They're also using site link extensions here. You can have up to 4 of these, and you can really see how these do a good job of pushing your competition further down in the page and taking up a lot of this all-important page real estate. Interestingly, a lot of people think, boy, diapers.com must be spending a lot of money to get this position. Actually, in this example, they're spending the least per click. So 7th generation, Pampers, and Huggies are all spending more. Reason is they haven't provided more information to Google. They haven't given it site link extensions or review extensions or extra headlines, this blue text, or descriptions, this gray text. And so because of that, Google has very little information about, hey, what are we advertising here? And so they don't trust these ads nearly as much because the due diligence wasn't done there. And so what they're going to do is they're going to penalize these advertisers with a higher cost per click and a lower page position. So they'll put them lower in this search result. Whereas diapers.com is going to pay a lower cost per click and be rewarded with a higher page position for setting up a few more bells and whistles that we'll show you how to do momentarily. It really is, paid is really good at controlling your landing page and testing. So in this example, they're doing a few things that aren't immediately apparent. For one, they're testing varying promotions. So half the people who see this ad see a 20% off discount, and the other half, let's say, sees a free shipping discount. They then run these ads evenly and see which one gets more engagement, more clicks, and more conversions, the actions that we want them to take. And from there, they have a good understanding of what they should roll into their site-side promotions. And so that's what's referred to as an A/B split test. They're just putting two options into Google and finding out which one works better. They're demonstrating promotional consistency as well. This is very important. So if you're going to talk about an incentive here in your ad copy, like they did with 20% off, it's important to also reflect that 20% off on the landing page that you're sending your users to. They've already developed some brand trust here in the search result and are excited to get their 20% off. They can feel a little bit baited and switched when they come to a site that doesn't immediately make it apparent how they're going to receive that incentive. So that's a good use of promotional consistency there. And again, they're just doing a very good job by using all applicable extensions to their ad in taking up page real estate. And I'm going to hop into the live demo here. Feel free, if you'd like, to take a quick snap of this QR code. That's going to allow you to download a PDF version of today's slides. And while I get things ready here. All right. Briefly, I do want to walk you through this initial setup of Google Ads. I realize some of you may already have an active Google Ads account, but there are a few things in here that if you're not careful can really impact the performance of your campaign. And so if you already have a Gmail or Google account, just go ahead and say sign in, or if not, say start now here or here. Go ahead and either create the account or use your existing email here. Here's where you're going to want to start considering what are your goals. And so for this example, I'm going to do a pet business that has both a brick and mortar store as well as services. So they offer, let's say, boarding, dog walking, cat sitting, things to that effect, as well as having a walk-in store. But the goal of this campaign is to get more dog walks and more boarding appointments. So in this instance, I'm probably just going to select phone calls, even though I could also select website sales or signups or visits to my physical location. All of these would apply for my goals, but in this instance, we want to keep it as narrow as possible. So select what your goals for your campaigns are and what's most important to you. Do you want phone calls, form fills, or physical location? Next, add your business into here. Go ahead and spell your name exactly as you have in Google My Business. If you have not registered to Google My Business, no worries. It's going to help you through those steps here in this process. Throw your website into here, and this is a very useful tool. They're now going to run a mobile-friendly and desktop check on your site. If there's any issues that is going to prevent your campaign from being effective or being able to be navigated easily by users, they're going to make you aware of those issues towards the bottom of this screen here. You can click mobile or desktop to see what it looks like on a desktop or a smartphone. At this point in time, if there are any warnings on this screen, it's best to address those warnings, kind of go back to the website, fix what Google has an issue with, and then go ahead and return to this screen by logging back in at ads.google.com, and it'll pick you up right where you left off. It's a common mistake at this point in time is driving web traffic to a site that, let's say, is not mobile friendly, so it's not very easy to navigate on a mobile device, or has some structural problems that is preventing Google from reading the content of your site. And that's what this will help you to determine. Next, it's going to drop you right into ad copy. It's going to have some example text in here, and you have 3 headlines to complete. Headlines are the blue text here, and they're up to 30 characters. You want to keep these short and punchy statements to the point. In fact, make this almost like your elevator pitch. So if somebody does not necessarily make it to the gray portion of your text, they at least have a good understanding of what you're trying to offer from your 3 headlines. Then, treat your description sections as an area to elaborate on the bullet points that you've called out in your headline. This is a great place to bake in any keywords that you feel are going to be relevant to you, but this is not the only place where you can use keyword targeting. Next, go ahead and throw your phone number in here if phone calls are a goal of yours. If you're not very interested in phone calls, go ahead and leave that section blank. Once completed, you should have something that looks a little bit more like this. And in this case, we're calling out the core service that we would like to promote here at the top, and then some secondary services here. You can almost think of it as priority 1, 2, and 3. So if somebody wasn't interested by the first headline, we have a couple more to keep them moving along. Something that's oftentimes missed is calls to action. So make sure not just to say what you're doing, but give them something to do with that information. A call to action can be as simple as call now or register today, and those are surprisingly effective. Some of the more meaty and effective calls to action involve incentives, such as we saw with the diapers.com example, so free shipping or 20% off. That's going to increase your click-through rate, and what that is how often people see your ads to how often they actually click it. Higher click-through rates shows Google that people are finding what they want. And that also lowers your cost per click. Next, it's going to ask about keywords. And again, these are the words that people will type into Google that elicit your search result. You want to keep this a very tightly themed list. Don't go much further than 4 to 5 keywords within that list. And it's going to give you some good suggestions here. These suggestions are derived based off of what they saw on your landing page, the ad copy you've just written. They're not always gospel though, so do read through each of these and make sure that they're applicable to what you're promoting. But in this case, we're mostly looking for walking, so majority of the keywords are talking about walking, dog sitting, and grooming. So we've got our first, second, and third priority that we wrote over there in our ad copy reflected here in our keywords. Next, it's going to really quickly just ask you, hey, what geographic location do you need? You can slide a radius or get extremely nuanced with zip codes, cities, regions. You can even go as small as a city block. It's going to make some budget recommendations based off of the keywords you've entered, as well as the ad copy and landing page. So they're going to look at all 3 of those things to determine where you should be. Oftentimes, this middle of the road suggestion is perfect. It has enough to it on a daily basis to be effective, but you're not overspending. You can really look at it and make some adjustments and before you decide to increase your budget. Oftentimes, I caution against going with the low-end suggestion. Many times, it's too low to really get enough what we call impressions, so getting your ad to show. Last but not least, it's going to hop over here and give you kind of a quick smattering of everything that you've put in here. Just make sure that this information is correct before heading over to the next screen. Once on that screen, you're going to see a screen that looks a lot like this. You won't have this red bar here, but everything else should be identical. And in this screen, we've got a few things to really take a peek at here. Quickly, I'm just going to show you the basic navigation of it though, before we do. Off to the left here in this black pane, you can collapse this or open it up at any time. You will see any associated campaigns that you're running. And in those last screens, we've built a basic search campaign. So in that diapers.com example we looked at, we basically have what's the default ad. So it's going to be a higher cost per click, and we'll want to work on that here today, and we'll show you how to fix that. If you do make any video, image, or other types of campaigns, they will be reflected here. You can always, once your campaign's running, update your date range here in the upper right-hand corner of the Google Ads pane. Off to the left here, let's see how the campaign's broken out. So first, you have a campaign, and this will have within it ad groups. You can have multiple ad groups within any given campaign. So in this example, our campaign is a pet business, and our ad group is our dog walking ad group that we just put together. You can use these pencil icons at any time to rename and save. Now, I mentioned we only have a default ad. So let's take a look at that by continuing to navigate down here on the left-hand pane, going to ads. And so this is the basic ad that we saw earlier in the diapers.com example. a couple headlines, and description. How do we add those extensions? Well, let's do a few together and show you some examples of how that's done. You just go over here under ads and extensions, go to the extensions section. There's already a few loaded in here. You may not see this screen the same. This might all be blank the first time that you come in here. But in general, when you're in Google Ads and you see a blue plus sign, it just means add new. So in this case, let's add a new extension. It's going to ask, what kind of extension are you looking to add? And there's a lot in here. And I actually encourage you to fill out as many of these that are applicable to your business and your marketing goals as possible. If you were to only pick a few to do, the most effective to do would be site link extensions, call out extensions, structured snippets, and call extensions. But again, I encourage you to try all of the extension types because they do take up so much more page real estate. Briefly, let's just do a call out extension together. So call out extensions are a total of 100 characters, and they're in 25 character blocks, as we see in this example here. And they're really used to tack on a little bit of additional information below the descriptions we wrote earlier. A lot of people think, oh, well, I could write a 100-character sentence. Don't do that, because these won't display in the same order as they are here. Google's going to test the order in which they display, so there won't be any context between these two. So in this case, they have GPS tracking for their walking service, so that's a really great thing to call out. They're bonded and insured. What else here? They're locally owned and operated. And you'll see if we ever go over, see we're one character over here, it's going to let us know with this bright red line. Ampersands are always your friend. Great way to shorten things up. And let's say that they have well-qualified employees. It's going to give you a really good example here, show you what it looks like within your actual copy and what it would look like in Google search. From there, all you have to do is click save. Phone calls can be tracked here in Google, but they can only be tracked if you have set up a call out extension. This, unlike all the other extensions, is a merit-based extension, so Google does appreciate you for adding this and does tend to shine positively on you with a lowered cost per click. So the only reason I wouldn't, the only reason I wouldn't do a call extension would be if phone calls aren't your priority, but it is a best practice to add that. Reason is, once you've added a call extension, Google's automatically going to be able to track the phone calls that took place from google.com. It's going to be able to use this information to use machine learning to automatically encourage more phone calls by showing the ad in places and positions that previously got it phone calls. Throw a number there. And unless this is toggled to use account settings, call from ads, you won't get any of that tracking function. So just make sure that this is set up this way. By default, it already is under use account settings. And hit save, and you'll get this great clickable call extension within all of your ads. And so you can see how just by a few minutes of extra work here, we've really added a lot of content to this ad. We added 100 characters of text and this nice drop-down box with a phone call in it. And that's why it's so important to not just make a search campaign with the default ad, but really add as many of these extensions that fit the goals of your business. So how do we maintain this once it's up? Well, search is fortunately one of the more basic campaign types to maintain. It's where Google makes 90% of its revenue, though. So it's important for you to watch and make sure you're not spending funny money or spending in a way that's not productive for you. And so let's take a look at some of the things you'll want to look at there. First, the keywords that we picked on the last screen. And again, to get there, I just went over here to keywords and then search keywords. We have what's called a bid assigned to each of these keywords. And this is what we're willing to pay for any given keyword. And you'll see of the ones we picked, for the most part, our bid's fine. Here's our bid 337, and it says we are eligible. But where there's an issue, it will let you know. And so in this instance, it's saying the keyword dog walker is actually a bid of 379 to show up on the first page. You don't need to bid 379, but they say you should at least get close to that range. Once you've adjusted that, you'll see that it is now eligible to show ads for that specific keyword. If it ever says low search volume, there's really no amount of bid change that's going to fix that. It really just means not a lot of people are looking for that specific search term. So in that point in time, you could choose to pause or edit it into a brand new keyword, something that might be a little bit more productive for you. Next, oftentimes people come in and they're excited to build campaigns, and what they'll do is they'll build a search campaign such as this, and maybe in this example, cat boarding campaign, and then another campaign that's specific to walk-in business. That is the ideal structure, but sometimes it can get a little confusing about, well, how do I effectually calculate my monthly budget? And there is a great shorthand rule that we can show you here today to help you do so. So let's say you've identified $1,000 as your monthly budget. Well, Google doesn't bill on a monthly cycle. It actually bills on a 30.4 day cycle. And so this levels things out for small months like February and makes it so that the system isn't too worried about the calendar year. It's just worried about, or calendar month, it's just worried about staying within that budget on a 30.4 day cycle. So just divide your total budget by that number, and you will arrive at what you need to spend on a day to hit that budget by any given month. And so in this case, it would be $32.89 a day over 30.4 days would spend exactly $1,000 worth of budget. Very important to watch those two things, your keyword bid and your budget. If you run out of budget, you're not going to show any more keywords. If your bid's too low, you're not going to use any budget. Those are the two things that you'll really, really want to keep an eye on. And then once in the short term, but once your campaign's running for a few weeks, go ahead and look at this. Search terms. This is different from keywords because sometimes your ads can show for things outside of your keyword. For example, if you put the broad match keyword dog walking, you could also show for dog walking near me, dog walking services, and similar related keywords. This is where you would see those similar related keywords. Sometimes Google doesn't hit the mark. And so it's important to review this list. And again, in this example, it's not a live campaign, so we don't have any for you, but it would look very similar to this. Review that list and pause or remove anything that is not applicable to you. So in the near term, check your bid and budget. Once the campaign's running, go ahead and add in looking at your search terms. Those are different again from the keywords themselves. And that's why you want to watch them and make sure Google's not getting you wrong or putting in the wrong types of targets on your behalf. And that's it. I mean, we have just built a running Google Ads campaign. This would begin to serve ads about 12 to 24 hours after having been enabled and once your card information has been applied. Briefly, we'd like to just quickly dive into some of the other campaign types that are more advanced and more affordable than search advertising. But again, what we just built together there is a prerequisite for any of these campaigns to work. They really do drive the data that's needed for display advertising and remarketing. And I think the easiest way to define what remarketing is I think most people are familiar with it. They go to an e-commerce site. Let's say it's bestbuy.com. They looked at a camera. They showed a lot of interest in that camera and some similar cameras, but they didn't purchase that camera. You leave bestbuy.com and suddenly everywhere you go, you're seeing ads for the cameras you looked at or similar cameras. Some are offering incentives, some are offering free shipping, trying to get you to return. That, in its most basic form, is remarketing. But it can be much more complicated and nuanced than that. So let's think about this a little. Whenever we advertise to a search engine, we're only advertising to about 21% of our time online because that's how much time users spend in Bing or Google. Whereas 79% of our time is out there in social media, websites, mobile devices, YouTube, Gmail, you name it. Very little of our internet time is actually spent in search. So the ads we just created are really only capturing 21% of that marketing space. If they're not in search, where are they? Well, they're here in the Google Display Network. And what this is a grouping of over 800 million sites, and it'll probably be a billion shortly here. And they rent small spaces of their website to the Google Display Network to display ads. These could be image advertisements. A lot of us are familiar with those on forums and blogs, maybe off to the right or within the blog itself, or more nuanced, like video pre-roll ads. So videos that show up before the video you would like to see. Say you're trying to see last night's newscast, maybe catch some sports highlights. Before you see that clip, they're oftentimes going to run a short 6 to 30-second advertisement. Well, that's done through the Google Display Network. This network reaches 94% of the internet. Really, so that what that tells you is it only it touches everything but closed marketing spaces such as Facebook or Instagram. So it's the most powerful, largest, and well-developed network. And really, it's designed to address a problem that's developed over the last few years, and that's the consumer journey. It's very fractured, and it's no longer linear. Used to be at one point in time, someone could click your ad, make it to your site, make a purchase, call it a day. That happens less and less. Oftentimes, the sales process starts with kind of an informational search. They're not totally sure what they're buying. So in this case, let's say this user's looking for a certain kind of coffee, very nuanced, specific kind of coffee. They're not totally sure of the brand name, so they're going to start with kind of a generic search. You could choose to show them an ad at that point in time, but you don't have to. Let's say they went over to Gmail after that, and they're trying to find an email from a friend with that brand name in it. Well, at that point in time, you could also choose to show them an ad in their Gmail inbox. It might not be that exact coffee that they're looking for, but it is similar, and it could be enticing at that point in time. And he realizes, I don't want to order this online, and so they do a Google or Bing Maps search. So they're trying to find something near me. They're trying to find a location that he can go into, pick up the coffee, and leave. Didn't find it, wasn't super fruitful. You do have the ability to show an ad at that point in time. They then hop back into Google search and they perform what we call a high intent search. So it's a commercial search. They're looking to purchase at this point. Because they've done a little bit of research through these two steps, they now have a good idea of what they want and where they need to get it from. Quickly realizing that this needs to be ordered online, they take a quick look at the YouTube channel of the company that they found through their Google search, develop a little bit of brand familiarity, and then drove home the conversion. You can see how that's very fractured. There's no linear path to that sale in this instance, but the advertiser that was successful in navigating all of these touch points and really staying top of mind as they went through this funnel has the highest likelihood of making it to that sale. And like everything with Google, you do not have to pay for an impression. You pay per click. And so if they weren't interested at any point on this journey, it didn't necessarily cost you anything, but you did get in front of them and really stay top of mind. So that's the real core power of the Google Display Network. You can really bounce around and stay with someone as they go through that fractured and no longer linear consumer journey. Biggest frontier, hands down, is video. Video usually goes for about 1 penny cost per click. In some instances, it doesn't even make a penny. It's a fraction of a penny. Reason is a lot of people aren't signing up at the rate Google would like to see because video is a little bit harder to produce. Feels like the production costs would be more than what benefits the consumers. And we can see in 2007, YouTube was a much different place. It was mostly a desktop device. It was bought by Google at that point in time. Yeah, kind of used it to show some stuff around the dorm room or maybe share some cat videos in the office, but it wasn't what it is today. Today, with products like YouTube TV and then the plethora of mobile applications that YouTube offers, we now see a large increase in what's called cross-device viewership. So people are picking up media on one device. Let's say they pick up something in the morning here on their mobile device, and then completing it in the afternoon on a television, iPad, or desktop. This is allowing us not only to track the consumer's behaviors as in ways we never have before, but it's allowing us to do things with video that television never was capable of and never will be capable of. For example, sequential storytelling. As somebody navigates through these different devices to complete their media watch, we could tell a sequential advertising story, 3 to 4 part series. What's great about that is as they see the next section, it's a great conversation piece with the other people in the room because they tend to fill them in on the missing pieces of the story. That said, once you've incorporated video into your existing search advertising or display advertising campaign, you unlock a suite and host of features that can benefit all of your campaigns. You begin to draw data from Google Search, YouTube, and Google Maps. And you can use that to derive customer patterns. So are they an in-store shopper, an online shopper, or are they hybrid? Do they do a little bit of both? You could develop life events. So are they getting married? Did they recently move? What kind of life events are they going through, and what kind of services would they benefit from at that time? So by adding video, you really are just adding a ton of existing enhancements to your existing Google Ads campaign. And briefly, what's next? Let's take a look at what's coming out either later this year or is already emerging from beta. So beta is something that, in a nutshell, is being tested and rolled out to the advertising populace. This is an open beta that I'm showing you here, so anybody can apply for this now. So it's very big news. What we're looking at here is a Google Shopping ad. It's a PLA ad, and somebody's clicked in to learn more. A few months ago, you would have only had the option to visit that person's site and then potentially buy it from there. So this is just a very fancy pay-per-click ad. Now we have the emergence of the Buy Now button. This is big. This puts Google on par with Amazon in terms of volume and inventory. And it also adds a lot of benefits that you can extend to your consumer base if you are an e-commerce company. For example, they offset all of the carbon emissions through purchases done in this system. And that's a benefit that you can begin to advertise and let your consumers know. You're also going to get 30% more text and advertising space for being a Buy Now button product listing advertiser. And they've opened up this whole new storefront. What's great about this storefront is it gives us access to 25 million users who are already set up with Google Express Pay or have purchased things through an Android phone. So for these users, this is a quick 2-click process to add to cart, buy, and it's already on their way to the door. One of the big benefits here is they're giving us a customizable banner, and Google is very reluctant to let anybody put images on google.com. So a lot can be done with that to inform your brand. There's very few places they let you do this. You can also put an incentive and, of course, your brand name and logo here. And again, that's new for Google. They don't like you to be able to have a lot of options to add imagery. And this Buy Now button that you see here indicates that these are 2-click purchases that are relatively simple to complete. So for the e-commerce space, that's a big change. For everyone, we have YouTube Video Builder Beta. This is also an open beta, meaning you can sign up for this today. So this is here to address the problem I mentioned earlier, where people are a little bit reluctant to get into video advertising because they're a little scared of the costs. What this is videos that are created through machine learning technology that YouTube's developed. And what they did was look at some of the most effective video pre-roll ads over the last 5 years and develop a series of 20 different templates that you can create using only images. And so you get a high production value, high quality video without having to hire a production crew. The only prerequisite to engage with this is you just have to have high quality images, which most advertisers already do. It's also going to unlock some classes. You'll be able to take some classes on the basics of YouTube, how to use Creative Studio, media planning, and a ton of really good top-line topics. So on the horizon here is YouTube Video Builder Beta and the Buy Now button through Google. Well, I really appreciate the time you've invested today. I would like to just quickly open it up to questions and answers.
Man, Josh, that was awesome. Woo! Google Ads has become pretty complex. I have to admit. I think organic SEO is easy compared to Google Ads and pay-per-click, just a little side note here. So we do have a lot of questions. Let me see. Let me get to this beginning here. Then I'm going to turn on my camera again. If you want to do the same thing, Josh, so that people can see us. Cool. Okay. What are the top 3 to 5 tactics smaller organizations with limited resources can implement to better align SEO and pay-per-click?
I think the number one thing there is those keywords we looked at when we built the default ad copy. Ensure that those keywords are also present somewhere in your website, either in the title and description of the page or in the content of the page itself. By reviewing, number 2, by reviewing the search terms, you're going to get a lot of good ideas for new keywords that you could incorporate into your organic strategy. You get a 2-part benefit there. So what will happen is you will begin to have the ability to show organically for those keywords that are now on your site, but Google's going to drop the cost per click on the keywords within your account because they see some consistency there. They see that the keywords on the web page as well as within the ad copy or keywords themselves.
And then, I mean, definitely retargeting is probably one of the best strategies, right? To combine organic SEO with PPC. So you get people to your website organically, and then you can slap on, PPC to basically follow them, continue show your information.
Yes, yes. Probably one of the biggest uses for remarketing is to bring a lot of that organic traffic back into the fold. So you might get a lot of organic traffic, and it's a great way to reach back out to them and bring them in. And if you have, let's say you have a MailChimp account and you have a lot of consumer emails that you've collected through your website, you can also upload those to Google as their own remarketing list and make ads directly to those folks.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Let's see, Uma, is search terms default provided by Google? You covered that earlier in the presentation. And search keyword provided by us. Is this understanding correct? Can you clarify this real quick, please?
Sure. And is, just so I understand the question, is the question the difference between search terms and keywords, kind of what the difference is between those two?
Not 100% sure, but maybe just quickly recap that in like 2 or 3 sentences.
Sure, gotcha. And so the difference there is the ones that you enter are broad match keywords. By default, that's what Google puts them as. And so what that means is they're going to start to make some judgments and new keywords. Those new keywords are called search terms. Those are separate from your keyword in that instance. You can block search terms, or if they're a good search term, you can make them a keyword. If you don't want them to make those kind of inferences, just change all of your keywords to what's called exact match. Exact match says to Google, hey, don't make any judgments. I only want you to show ads for these keywords. I caution against that as your default strategy though, because exact match keywords tend to have a higher cost per click.
Okay, cool. Question for me. So when you start out, when you start out fresh with Google Ads or potentially a new website, would you focus first on longer tail keywords, like 3 or more words strung together? Or are you going to go for the big shiny object, like short tail keywords? What's a good strategy?
So if branding is your goal and awareness is your goal, use those short keywords. So they're going to get a lot more impressions, a lot more clicks. They are going to cost a lot more as well. If conversions and sales is your goal, always want 2 to 3 words in a long tail keyword or a high intent keyword. So for example, back to the ladies' shoes for sale. Ladies' shoes by itself is a very broad term. It's going to bring in a lot of traffic. But buy ladies' shoes near me is a long tail keyword that's going to bring in more sales oriented searches. So really it depends on your goal. Shorter keywords are for branding and a lot of awareness. Long tail keywords are better for sales and conversions.
And then especially if you're a local business, people are now searching for, near me, et cetera, et cetera. do you see, are we optimizing or are we running campaigns that include near me for like local clients?
Yeah, in fact, that's we call that a keyword modifier. So you just add near me to the keyword, and it can open up a whole world of possibilities. So yeah, things like near me, best, local, things to that effect can really drive down the amount of cost per click, and drive up the amount of conversions, because there's more intention of what that person wants to do with that keyword.
Awesome. How different would you run a campaign to a B2B audience compared to a B2C audience? That is a good question.
Yes, yes. Remarketing is a B2B and B2C friend. So that does work in any instance, especially for people who have made it to your website, showed some interest. They've kind of raised their hand and said, I'm kind of interested in your product or service in that case. So that's why it works well for both the B2B and B2C space. When we're looking at search advertising, though, you want to have a long tail keyword strategy for a B2B situation, because you don't want to waste money or impressions on those kind of research or informational searches where people are, what is XYZ service? Whereas you would only want those high intent keywords in the B2B environment. B2C, there is many instances where having kind of shorter keywords that get a lot more impressions and do cost more. There's many instances where those are some of the most productive keywords, especially in the e-commerce space. So for remarketing, it's almost the same strategy, but search, you do want to really consider what kind of keywords you're using.
Awesome. And here's a little bit, I think it's going to be a little bit more complex question than what it is. Can Google, for B2B, can Google be a good alternative to LinkedIn ads for B2B? So LinkedIn was purchased by Microsoft. Can you just briefly elaborate on the Bing network? And I think there's some good connections there between LinkedIn and Bing, right?
There are. And you can actually advertise in Bing through, pardon me, in LinkedIn through both Bing and Google Ads, but these are only the display ads. And they're very choosy about where they put those because they prefer their internal platform to others. But with that preface, if you want to advertise in LinkedIn, don't go through Google Ads or Bing. Go directly to that platform. Something I found in the B2B environment with LinkedIn is I find that their marketing lists are a little bit watered down when compared to what we see in a Bing marketing list or a Google Ads marketing list. Reason is they're relying a lot on what the user has entered into that profile. And they have a lot of users in there that are the CEO or something, and that ends up, CEO of, I don't know, pencil sharpening, let's say, and that ends up on a list of CEOs. And so you have a lot of people who have signed up for a LinkedIn, and then you go to market towards that list, really maybe only 50% of that list fits the criteria that you're looking for. So albeit it's great that LinkedIn has the capability to choose job title, income, things to that effect, it's only as good as the data the user put into it. Whereas Bing and Google, when they make a remarketing list, they are looking at the data you put in, as well as what they kind of know about your habits, histories, and behavior. So they tend to be more accurate in their assumptions. In both instances, they're anonymous, or all three instances actually, these lists are anonymized. So it's not like we could ever point to an individual person and single them out, but we can use them to speak to a wide audience.
Awesome. And just a heads up, so we do have a lot of questions. I know we have about 5 minutes left. Josh, if you're okay, if you can stay on, if people want to stay on, we'll continue to answer questions for a little bit longer than,
Sure.
Okay, Josh, what could make a Google ad disapproved? I had an experience where my ad was not approved yet. I was billed for it as it was set to have run notwithstanding.
Interesting. So oftentimes you'll learn a lot because there's a lot of reasons why an ad could get disapproved, but you'll learn a lot by navigating over to the ads section here. And off here under status, if it is disapproved and you hover over it like I'm doing now, it should give you a few bullet points of why it's disapproved. Sometimes it's not even the ad copy itself. Sometimes they find a few things about your landing page that they're not okay with. Some common things that cause ads to get disapproved, the ad is fine, but the landing page isn't, is missing return policy, missing privacy policy, or a missing terms and conditions. Reason that's important, and especially when you're running remarketing, is privacy policy and terms and conditions states how you and Google are going to be responsible with that person's personally identifiable information. So sometimes they'll block your ad just because that page is missing. If you're in the e-commerce space and you do not have a return policy on your page, they'll likely block your ad for that as well. Even if you don't accept returns, that's fine. They just want to see a page that says we don't accept returns. So there's some of the common reasons why it can be disapproved, but the best way to find out on an individual basis is to look at the ad and then kind of hover over it, such as we're doing there.
Awesome. Okay. How can we use Google Ads to promote an app in Google search? An app and not a website? That is a good question.
That is. And that's actually done through a very specific campaign type. We won't be able to dive into everything needed there today, but it's just referred to as an apps campaign. And you hit new campaign and select apps campaign from there. But something you'll want to have set up ahead of time is something called Firebase. You can just Google what Firebase is. It's kind of like analytics, Google Analytics, but specific to apps. You'll need that in place to run an app campaign at all. So I suggest just going over to Firebase, signing up for an account, following the prompts that they ask you there, then go over to Google Ads, hit that blue plus sign like we did a moment ago, and make a new apps campaign. There'll be a lot of prompts to help walk you through the development of that campaign, and it works very similar to the search campaign we put together, where you could just use keywords to define when it shows and pops up. App campaigns have a great ability to also show on phones. So within apps, as an interstitial app on your phone, let's say you're promoting a video game app. Well, you could show an ad on similar video game apps. So it's not just a search specific ad type. You can also use it to advertise within other apps.
Man. Okay. I hope you can answer this question. Search terms are less relevant now because of GDPR, the Privacy Act in Europe, basically. Only high volume of keywords appear in search terms. Any alternative?
And is that the search terms in your, sorry to have a question with a question, but I wonder if that's the search terms from your keyword planner or the search terms from your live campaign. I'll just assume it's from the live campaign. GDPR did affect a lot of that in terms of what we can see on the projection side of things. So in keyword planner, the projections aren't quite as accurate. Arguably where it had the most impact though is on remarketing. Much of what we discussed in the display network section isn't available to Europe because of the GDPR. Now, keywords are still very valuable and it's became harder to do keyword research, but there are some third-party tools out there. ICMrush is a decent one that will help you to do some in-depth keyword research without using Google's tools there.
Also seranking.com, SERanking. We've been using the tool more and more lately. That's an awesome tool. All right, cool. Then let me see, can you tell, and so we're at the top of the hour. So this would theoretically conclude our webinar. Josh, if you're okay, we're gonna continue to answer some questions. We still have about 20 plus people online. So if you need to bolt, no worries. You will receive the link to the recording. So you can always catch up with these questions and answers later. If not, continue to stay with us for maybe another 5, 7, 8 minutes, something like that. All right. Can you tell us about multilingual and localization efforts with Google Ads? How can we research best multilingual and multi-location keywords? How related is our search engine marketing strategy to our SEO strategy? Does SEM need to encounter SEO? Woo! A lot of questions there.
Well, I'll start from the
short. Yeah.
I'll go from the bottom up there. Yes, SEM does need to be understood by SEO and vice versa. So both those strategies can inform one another. Something that's working well in the organic space is often a natural fit for the paid space and vice versa. Multilingual localization efforts. That's a tongue twister. Google's not doing a good job at keeping up with this in terms of their machine learning tools. They had tried some kind of Google Translate-esque features. The best way to do this is to hook into a localization agreement through an agency. And honestly, you want to have people with the local dialect doing that translation, because machines just aren't there yet. It's still not a one-for-one translation. Never will be, because there's a lot about language that doesn't translate one for one and needs that kind of massaging by someone who is a native speaker. So my recommendation there is identify the key languages that you need to localize immediately, and then find whomever that person is to help you localize your existing English or whatever your original language your ads are within, and then go language by language by language there and assign priority. So that's usually the best way to kind of get through that. Google is working on some automated tools, but I wouldn't put much faith in that, again, because of the way languages differ from region to region and language to language.
Actually, so Josh, we're actually doing more and more transcreation, where we take the English keyword and we find the best possible transcreated keyword in the target language, identifying how people are actually searching for the equivalent, in what the English keyword is. So if you can reach out to us, that's something that we do. All right, then, good question. Does search engine marketing overlap with social media marketing?
Yes, especially in the e-com space. So if you're doing product listing ads, you've already done everything you need to do a Facebook marketplace ads. You just need to hook up the new platform. There's a lot that inform one another outside of the keyword space. So when we're talking about remarketing and retargeting, where we're using demographics like income or maybe an audience list or any kind of demographics that we've mixed up in the back end of Google Ads, those can better inform your Facebook campaign and vice versa. So if you know something about your audience in Facebook is true, it's likely also true about your Google audience. So not too much assistance there between the keywords. They don't inform each other at all in that respect. But for remarketing, there's a lot of overlap in terms of the audience and who you're targeting in that audience.
Cool. Maybe let's few more questions and then we're going to wrap it up here. Emmanuel, I tried once to delete a conversion tracking in tools, conversions, but Google didn't let me, telling me it is used by Google to have conversions. I had to redo a complete new campaign. If we can force to delete a conversion track? Do you know how to delete a conversion tracking?
Sure. If it's here in Google Ads, you just go to Tools, Conversions, and then you can pause, remove, or delete any associated conversions. In this case, this count doesn't have any, so I'd have to add some to show you that example. You can always check to see if you still have conversion tracking scripts installed on your site by using this handy little tool here. It's called Google Tag Assistant. It's only available for Chrome, but it'll let you know, hey, what if any Google products are running on your site? And so that's a great way to check your website to see, have I removed the conversion tracking? And then you also check your Google Ads here by going to Tools and Conversions, and then you can be sure that that's all gone.
Cool. And then let me see, what kind of budget do you need to run Google Ads? What's your recommendation? I know we have, micro companies to mid-size to large companies on this call. What's a good recommendation?
So, and you want to think of it at a monthly budget level, or at least a 30.4-day cycle. And with that, most people find success on the smaller end at $500 a month. I encourage you to start your campaign at about that range. Develop the best set of keywords, landing pages, and ad copy that you possibly can, And then from there, decide how much more to invest. So I treat that $500 as kind of like your testing budget, to really understand how much benefit and value it has from you. And then once you really have seen the benefit, then decide how much gas to pour in the fire you created.
Cool, cool. And then of course, like if you hire an agency like ours, there's going to be a management fee. I personally, when I was a marketing manager back, a long time ago, I managed our own Google Ads campaign. I eventually hired somebody. It was just too complex. I burned through a lot of money. But yeah, so keep that in mind. If you hire somebody to help you with your PPC, there's gonna be a management fee, but you get great expertise, and obviously we're happy to talk to you about that. With that being said, sales pitch over. Josh, I actually learned a lot. You got a lot of kudos from a lot of the attendees. I think this webinar was well received. We'll send the link to the recording, the link to the slides in PDF format. Josh, I assume that's okay?
Yes, definitely. And we have a quick e-booklet that will cover some of the key points we went over today, and get you pointed in the right direction as well.
Cool. And then we do a lot of webinars. I think the next one is organic SEO, then international SEO. Last question is 30.4 days for a month. Is that for Google or for Facebook as well?
So that's a good question. So no is the short answer. Facebook really wants to do it on a campaign by campaign level, but you could still kind of use that rule, because in general, if you averaged all the months together, that is the average days in a month. So if you did use the 30.4 rule in Google, it would work, but just remember, it's all on that one campaign level. So if you've made a second campaign, you're going to have to divide up between those two.
Yeah. Cool, cool. All right, awesome. Hey, Josh, thanks so much. Thanks everybody for staying on. Yeah, we'll see you next time. Great job, Josh. All right.
Thank you.
I'm going to
Bye.
stop recording. Thanks, everybody.